UCF has to find some momentum headed into game 2 versus North Carolina A&T.
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. Turn us on, turn us up, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend, James Duncan, UCF sports commentator extraordinaire. We had a good time, James, in the post game. Got to say, our first post game here at Locked On UCF went extremely well in a UCF win versus Jacksonville State. UCF finding something late with Taven Jackson on today's show. We're going to talk about how you build on game 1 headed into game 2. And then we're going to talk about offensive line improvements. I liked this group headed into the season, and I'm iffy headed into game 2. We'll talk a little bit about how Paul Rubelt and company can improve their performance and maybe protect their quarterback a little better. And then in the last segment, we'll talk about QB. We're going to have to talk QB every single day until such a time as UCF does not play a QB. But look, let's start at the top here. Building on game 1 is going to be super important. You've had some time to take in what happened on Thursday. It feels weird saying that, like it's Monday and we're 3 days removed from UCF football. But more of a normal game week preparation here. Scott Frost has got to find some momentum coming out of that. Now, they started the game with Cam Fancher. They ended the game with Taven Jackson. How does UCF build momentum on game 1? They say the biggest improvement for any team comes between game 1 and game 2, and game 2 is right around the corner.
Yeah, things that I'm looking for in terms of building is definitely consistency and the lack of small errors. I think you look at a lot of those drives, and I think the constant issue of the past couple of years with UCF is you look at their offensive production and yards, and you go, they're the best offense, one of the best offenses in the country. And then you look at how many points they put up per game, and you realize that the efficiency is not there. The ability for explosive plays is there. The ability to pick up 6 yards or 8 yards or 9 yards a play is there. The ability to finish those drives cleanly and finish them in the end zone or through the uprights is the thing that needs to be worked on. I can count multiple drives that past game against Jack State where you felt like you had big things rolling. You felt like things were going well and the drives were going okay. And you had either a false start or you had a holding that brought back a big play or a touchdown. And those are the things that have plagued UCF for years. You would like to see those things fixed before game 2 under Scott Frost's tutelage. But I would also love to see, and we'll get to it later, but I would love to see some offensive line improvements as well.
I would love to see some offensive line improvements. We'll get to that in the second segment. But the wide receiver group, I feel like, played well in this one. And building on the performance by DJ Black and Marcus Burke and company is going to be super important for Scott Frost. He praised this group in fall, saying that, he liked where they were at. He understands where they are from an experience perspective, but I don't think that praise was misplaced. I liked what I saw from them. Now, before we started recording, I think when you rewatch the film, you like some things you saw with guys running open downfield and getting open here in the Scott Frost system.
Yeah, no, I think that Frost did a really good job in play calling, and you wouldn't see that on the scoreboard. You wouldn't be like, oh, wow, I bet this game was really well called, but it was. There was a really good called game, and I can count multiple times where I saw a guy that had his man beat or was schemed open, and either the QB just didn't have enough time or didn't see him or looked him off. And there's a few occasions where I would like the ball just to be put up. I think especially when you're playing, I don't want to I don't want to talk down to anyone's team or anything, but there's definitely should be a talent gap between a G5 and a P5 or a P4, I guess. And I would love to see them throw it up for a 6'4 Marcus Burke or a 6'3 DJ Black for a 50-50 ball that they can go up there and get. I didn't see that a lot in this game. Most of the times that the wide receivers were being thrown to, they were wide open.
Yeah. Look, I think that the flow of this game didn't dictate that you could do certain things, but I gotta say, first play of the game was a deep shot on a play that was wide open. If you hit this one, you have a chance to demoralize Jackson State right out of the gate. It's tricky with teams like that. I mean, again, I have to credit our commenters and our listeners. And I say commenters because I say we got listeners and we have those who go to the comment section after every video. And they said repeatedly, you cannot overlook this Jacksonville State team. Charles Kelly had his team very well prepared for this game, James, and they never really allowed UCF to get in a flow offensively in that first quarter. Now, UCF attributed to that with missed passes and missed opportunities in the passing game, but you were able to find that later with Taven Jackson. Again, we'll evaluate his performance a little bit more closely in our third segment. But the wide receivers were open, and I think that's the most important message in all this is that Scott Frost, to me, was in his bag calling plays. It didn't look pretty. I mean, guys weren't able to execute early, but I saw opportunity. The purpose of offensive play calling is to create opportunities for playmakers to make plays, and they did that. There were opportunities there. So when they go back and they look at the film, I'm telling you, Cam Fancher, I know he got injured, but he's going to have lots of time to watch film. He's going to kick himself seeing the opportunities that were missed. I would also add that a lack of accuracy, this is something I've talked about on this very channel, in the passing game also limited your big play potential from those very athletic wide receivers. There were the inaccurate throws to the flat were driving me insane. You're turning wide receivers around on these passes parallel to the line of scrimmage, and it's just you got to put the ball on the body a little bit out in front of the receiver to give him a chance. If he's got to reach back like this on a play like that, that half second is all the defender needs to make up ground, and then suddenly what could have been a 10-yard gain potentially turns into a tackle for a loss.
Yeah, I think you have so many playmakers on this team that can get those yards after catch. One of the guys, obviously, I talked about before, DT, Speedy Thomas. I said, this guy's going to be good. This guy's going to be good. And he had multiple catches for 40 plus, 50 plus yards, I think. And a lot of those like situations where he was either getting it dumped off to, he didn't have the chance to make those yards after catch plays. And he's the fastest guy on the team. You need the guy that can make the big playmaking, the big shot plays, or even the little screen plays. He could turn those into 40, 50-yard gains. You need to be able to set those plays up and properly execute them. And they were properly set up and poorly executed. And all that starts from the QB. And if that QB, like you said, if that QB lays it on his chest and stride and doesn't turn him around, you get a big play. Or you even move the chains. I mean, regardless, you're moving downfield. Would love to see more of those plays to Speedy. Would love to see those plays to Myles. Even Waden is someone, if you looked at his high school tape, the kid can stick and jive, like he can move. I would love to see more of those little check down plays properly executed.
Yeah. Look, to execute great on offense, you need strong offensive line play. We're going to talk about that group's performance here next on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Rougiette. Guys, you probably heard of Viagra or maybe even Cialis. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal and in the brain boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pill that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control in the moment. If traditional options haven't worked for you, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head over to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compound drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, and manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information. This episode of Locked On UCF is also brought to you by our friends at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead time keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real advice. Guys, we need your help. We've got a survey, and we want you to take the survey and give us some feedback. Feedback is important here to us at Locked On, and we put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better, including Locked On UCF. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to LockedOnPodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's LockedOnPodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. The offensive line has got to play better. Cam Fancher got murdered by a blitzer who essentially had a free run at the quarterback. I know he didn't play well, but he did not deserve that. And if you're UCF, you got to take that personally. Yeah, that can't happen. And look, Taven Jackson played really, really well under pressure. Again, we're going to evaluate his performance, but no matter who the QB is, you need help from your offensive line. And I don't think that they performed particularly well in this game. Now, you've got to give credit where credit is due to Jacksonville State. I thought they came into this game prepared and ready to go. And, I thought that they had a really, really, really good defensive game plan that maybe confused UCF's offensive line a little, James. But, in the grand scheme of things, you've just got to play better. Now, Keegan Smith was the highest graded offensive lineman in pass blocking in this game. 85. He got a PFF score of 85. Right guard Cameron Kinney had a score of 81. Outside of that, Paul Rubelt, pretty disappointing performance, 64.5. I would not say he played well. Preston Cushman graded out really low. Guard Memolar also graded out very low. 60% of your offensive line can't play poorly, and you win football games in conference play.
Yeah, and Cam Kinney's coming out of the 2 deep as well. Not even a starting offensive lineman.
Carter Miller played really poorly.
Your guys that were hyped up to play really well certainly had a disappointing run out there. Definitely need to see large improvements from that unit. Both of your quarterbacks took targeting calls during that game. Taven took one as he was sliding, and obviously Cam took the big one. I don't even think it was from his blind spot. I think it was from the left side. So that's obviously a tough thing to take from your O-line, just feeling like they kind of let you down a little bit. You need to see a lot of progression from that group, especially because that was a group that was very I don't want to say highly touted because I think that there was a lot of other groups that were definitely more talked about than that unit. But having Paul as a captain and a multi-year returner, as a guy you took to Big 12 media days, you almost feel like that group should have been a lot better than they were.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Taven scored really high out of rushing opportunities. Like he was rushed multiple times and had pressure and scored really, really, really well. Being for someone that was under pressure quite a bit. Obviously that first couple drives with him, weren't great, but figure it out in the fourth quarter, which is what mattered. But yeah, you definitely need to see a major step up from this offensive line. And I think having a cupcake to do it against might make it a little easier.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, like I said, the bottom line is they have to play better. You got to play better than that. And it was the things I felt like the scheme was good. The opportunities were there. There were opportunities for, quarterbacks to make plays. And for guys like Paul Rubel, you have to, blocking is about pride, man. It's about that dog in you. And I didn't see that in them in game one. So, I think maybe in game one, when you've got those first game kind of jitters, hopefully they got it all out of their system, man. Like I hope that that's all out of their system now. And we see a much better, more cohesive looking offensive line unit versus North Carolina A&T. If you're going to play like you played in that first quarter, you definitely can't overlook any opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't even look over in North Carolina A&T, who lost to, what was it, the Tennessee State Tigers last week. They lost, their FCS game. They are FCS, I believe. Yeah, I think they are. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I watched a little bit of film on that game because I am a little bit of a college football sicko. And they're not horrible. In terms of FCS competition, they've got their quarterback Braxton Thomas, running back Wesley Graves, and heading receiver Amonte Jones, who had 4 catches for like 90 yards and a TD. Like they have good talent. You need to make sure that you don't get, I hate calling this like another game that you need to look out for, but I think just after watching our performance against Jack State, who by the way is a good team, I still need to see some major improvements from this O-line.
I couldn't agree more. Look, they'll get it together. I believe that they'll improve from game 1 to game 2, but as we're recording this, North Carolina is taking on TCU right now. And as you know, UCF has to play North Carolina in the very near future. So, before North Carolina comes to the bounce house, you better have some stuff figured out. If I know anything about a Bill Belichick coach squad is that they may not be champions, but he's going to prepare them like they are. And you just need to be ready for them to attack your weaknesses and exploit every single, especially for North Carolina on defense, attacking this O-line. Trust me, they're looking at tape and they're looking at every single weakness they can exploit along that line. But ultimately, good quarterback play, James, can cover a lot.
Yes.
We're going to evaluate Taven Jackson some more here in our last segment on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. So I know you guys have to be excited. It was an exciting opening weekend, and look, tailgates, rivalries, energy, it was all there. But getting actual tickets can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices, jumping at checkout. That's why we use Game Time here at Locked On UCF. The app that gives you the advantage and gives the fans more control. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprises, fees. What you see is what you pay. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. This episode of Locked On UCF is also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure that you, the fan, are ready to make some money. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Guys, I famously got $300 in bonus bets and put it all on a single game parlay. I bet the Warriors, and it was a 9-leg parlay. The last leg of the parlay was Draymond Green over 6.5 points. He scored 6 points, and I did not win $22,000 that day. So I'm not a Draymond Green fan, but the FanDuel app made my almost dreams come true there if Draymond had just come through. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet and maybe win $300 in bonus bets. True story about Draymond. I've hated Draymond Green ever since.
I don't blame you at all.
Yeah, it was. I took a snapshot that because I was like, nobody's gonna believe I almost won $22,000 on a 9-leg parlay.
God.
Everything hit. Steph Curry was going off. Klay Thompson was going off. It was amazing. And he fouled out at the beginning of the fourth quarter, James. Like it was a frustration foul. Like he was just mad how the refs were calling the game. So he like reached on an inbound pass, and I was like, can't with this.
Brutal.
So brutal.
Brutal.
You know what wasn't brutal was Taven Jackson in the third and fourth quarter. Man,
Yeah.
He was cooking. 17 for 24 for 282 yards and 2 very, very big touchdowns that won UCF the game. He looked like it's hard. Again, I don't want to take anything away from Jacksonville State, but he looked like a complete quarterback once he got going.
Yeah.
He looked poised. He was seeing the field. He was hitting guys downfield. It looked easy. And it felt like if he had started the whole game, UCF might have won by 4 touchdowns. I don't know how else to say this. He didn't start the game, and Cam Fancher did not play well. But Taven Jackson, to me, has to be your guy headed into game 2. He was very non-committal about the prospect of how much of a hold Cam Fancher had on the job. Scott Frost said, look, man, Cam's going to be the first to go out. That's pretty much what he said, everything I asked about quarterback. And now we see why he was maybe non-committal. In my opinion, sometimes there's some things you can't tell from practice. You don't know until you put a guy in the game and you see him perform. Cam won the job in practice. Taven won the job on the field.
Yeah, and the big thing that Scott keeps referencing is you don't rise to the moment, you stoop to the level of your training. And that I think was a reason for him to kind of say, hey, this isn't over. It's not the end. Taven's not the guy that we're putting out there week 2. But he's also not saying that Cam is the guy that they're going to put out there. So I think that you can't be 100% sure about which guy they're going to put out there. And I'm putting Taven Jackson out there. That's the guy that clearly had a better run of things. I think he had like 7 or 8 drives overall. Only 6 actually. So, he scored a touchdown on 2 out of his 6 drives. One of them was literally right after the delay. He came in cold. It was right after the targeting. I don't even really give him, an issue with that. I think the third quarter, his first drive of the game, you have that big 64-yard pass to Myles. That was like our first scoring drive that ended in a field goal, which really should have ended in a touchdown. If there weren't for, like I said earlier, small errors. His third drive resulted in a punt. He got sacked. Fourth drive, TD to Dylan Wade. Fifth drive, turnover on downs after a missed field goal from No Rulas, which was 43 yards out. I mean, that's a pretty makeable field goal. I saw upwards of 60 yarders be made in week 1 in college. So, I mean, it makes you worry a little there. And then obviously his last drive, the big TD to DJ Black. So I think if you look at that and you just look straight up at the numbers and you say, hey, man, if you can get a little bit of fix from your O-line, or if you can get a little bit of a fix from, your special teams unit, you win this game by a lot more.
Yeah, I could not agree more. Taven Jackson, I don't see a world where he's not the starter. He got called on and he performed. And he performed well. He performed well. Again, if he's going to complete 70% of his passes, you're going to have a chance to win a lot of football games. And it wasn't just that and he still missed a couple out there. Like there were a couple throws that they were there. He just missed them. Yeah. So it was a little bit of a rough start for him. But by that second drive, he was clearly in a groove. And your dream scenario, if you're Scott Frost, when you have to go to your backup, that he performs like that. So, as I mentioned, again, I can say this, practice is not the end-all, be-all. There are some guys who, once they get in the game, you see things that you didn't see in practice because it is hard to simulate everything.
Yeah.
In practice against a real opponent that is trying to stop you. And Taven Jackson went out there and promptly put a stop to any dreams Jacksonville State had of pulling an upset in that one, much to the delight of UCF fans, myself and you included. Look, game 1 was a ride. Game 2, I hope, is a lot more boring. Either way, we'll be here to talk about it. My good friend James Duncan. Guys, that's it for another great edition of Locked On UCF. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of every single day. It's another big moment in Locked On history. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season and only on Fire TV. Catch us here tomorrow on YouTube on Locked On UCF.